sport. The impact that Jim had, his ability to be able to articulate his thoughts around capital.
And Jim's wisdom expanded to how do we empower economic advancement and economic development opportunities amongst people from all backgrounds and all races.
Jim Brown took a busload of athletes through the South to talk to small business people, to let them know that, hey, there are some things here that you can take advantage of. Jim's experience leading a team and saying what was necessary to pull everybody together gave him a greater appreciation of the potential of sport being used to leverage unity, collaborative effort in the broader culture.
Because money is not everything. Quality of life has to be emphasized. We have to go back to family values. We have to go back to things that we have gotten away from.
Talking to us about being involved in the community, how we can give back, sports is, and what a great unifier it can be in our country.
If you think about it, Jim was a real forerunner in terms of athletes being involved outside the sport.
And a lot of athletes looked to him for guidance and for definitional authority in terms of what they were supposed to be doing.
I can think about him inspiring change in education. And his point was that I'm going to inspire you to get educated on a lot of different issues. I witnessed the fact that he was able to do that. And he went to so many schools around the Los Angeles community and said, you know what, I can inspire change by giving you a different perspective.
To really do that, to raise young people up and inspire them that they can do something special. The impact he's made on social justice, it's something he's worked on forever. It has molded how we think about how we can become involved in social justice and the difference we can make. So that's the reason today we're really excited to honor Jim by naming the Changemakers Award after Jim. So it will now be the Jim Brown Changemakers Award.
We can think of no one more deserving nor more appropriate to be honored with this award than Jim Brown.
Jimmy and Dee and the fans of Cleveland, you are the greatest in the world. You stayed with me through thick and thin. I always give the greatest respect to you guys. Thank you so much.
Be on the air 20 years as of this fall. Just one of the first I was privy to and saw firsthand was how revered he was by his peers and revered by those who followed him in the running back position in the NFL. And the number of running backs who I have either worked with, Marshall Faulk being the one that stands out, everyone else from the running back class in Canton throughout the years, Emmett, they all would flock to Jim Brown whenever he would appear at the Hall of Fame, which was almost every year. That they wanted to pick his brain, they wanted to talk about him, they wanted to talk to him, and they also just wanted to, whenever they received praise from him, it was the ultimate that they could receive. I remember several years ago, just walking up the driveway of our old digs that we.
NFL legend and Pro Football Hall of Fame running back Jim Brown has died at the age of 87. He played as a fullback for the Cleveland Browns from 1957 through 1965. He was considered to be one of the greatest running backs of all time, as well as one of the greatest players in NFL history. NFL legend and Pro Football Hall of Fame running back Jim Brown has died at the age of 87. He played as a fullback for the Cleveland Browns from 1957 through 1965. He was considered to be one of the greatest running backs of all time, as well as one of the greatest players in NFL history.
This is Jim Brown, the most devastating ball carrier in the history of football.
Hall of Fame running back Jim Brown left defenders in his wake and all who watched him in awe.
You know, talk about running backs in the history of the National Football League. There's only one number one, and there is no number two. It's Jimmy Brown.
Jim Brown, the greatest running back that has ever breathed.
I think that Jim Brown is the greatest football player that's ever played, regardless of era, regardless of position.
Brown was a three-time NFL MVP. He won the rushing title in 8 of his 9 seasons. He was selected to the Pro Bowl in every year he played. James Nathaniel Brown was born on St. Simon's Island, Georgia in 1936. Life was hard. There was little money. When his parents divorced, Brown moved to Long Island with his mother. While she worked as a housekeeper, he excelled in sports at Manhasset High. Brown earned letters in basketball, baseball, lacrosse, track, and of course, football. Despite his talent, Brown was unable to get a scholarship from Syracuse. A local benefactor paid for his freshman year, however, and Brown later earned a scholarship and All-America honors.
Big star for Syracuse is All-American Jim Brown, scoring 3 touchdowns in a terrific one-man show.
In 1957, Brown was Cleveland's #1 pick. He led the league in rushing and was the NFL's Rookie of the Year. Brown possessed a rare blend of speed and strength. He wasn't a beautiful runner, he was a power runner, and his power was beautiful to watch.
Power. He had power. You didn't see nobody knock him down. Look at the film. You don't see nobody knock him back. You see him go in the stacks and he come out. You see him do all the things that you're still wondering, how the heck did he do that?
He did it with a body of steel and a will of iron, against defenses focused solely on him.
You test yourself in every way, stamina-wise, mentally, courage. It pushes you to the brink. A 185-pound cornerback is going to make me go out of bounds. I'm going to be building up his ego. I'm going to try to drop a forearm into his chest, and sometimes miracles happen.
Brown averaged over 100 yards a game and 5 yards per carry during his career. Most amazing of all, he never missed a start.
Jim Brown was a freak because he never missed a game. I think that says all you need to know about his toughness.
11 defenders massed at the line and dared Brown to beat them. He did, week in and week out. There was a price to pay for every yard, and Brown was willing to pay it. When he was hurting, he didn't allow his opponents to know it. He never talked between plays, and he always got up slowly.
If you get up slow each time, that's the constant. They don't know when the wind is knocked out of me. They don't know when I'm hurt. They don't know when I'm dizzy. They don't know anything.
Brown was a man of mystery. He even kept his own teammates in the dark.
As many times as he carried the ball, as much of a pounding as he took, he was never in the training room. What they didn't find out until later was Jim came in at 6 o'clock in the morning and went in the training room. And it sort of conveyed this sense of this is Superman.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. The pro game in the pop age had a number of superstars, but only one Superman, and he was Jim Brown.
In 1964, the Browns beat the Colts, and Superman was finally a world champion. 2 years later, at the peak of his powers, he shocked the football world by retiring.
I left at the age of 29 years old, and I was MVP of the league. I wanted to have a career, a full career, have it peak, and leave and do other things.
And who knows, it may be that he was tired of being the Iron Man of football, where he would just get battered in every game, not let anybody know, and he must have hurt like the devil. I can't imagine that he was invincible to pain, and yet he had this sort of pride that never let it show, and maybe he was sort of tired of doing that, you know?
After football, Brown became an actor and starred in films like The Dirty Dozen. Later, he was a civic activist and worked to stem gang violence in Los Angeles and Cleveland. But long after his Hall of Fame enshrinement, Brown never ventured far from the game he loved.
It is not who was better, who was starting. It's about all of us shared the same experiences, and we loved it, and we played the game because of the game.
When Jim Brown walked away from the game after just 9 years, he was the NFL's all-time leading rusher and held 20 records. Many consider him to be not only the greatest running back ever, but perhaps the greatest single player of all time.
Jim Brown's wife posting this to social media, saying, "It is with profound sadness that I announce the passing of my husband, Jim Brown. He passed peacefully last night at our LA home. To the world, he was an activist, actor, and football star. To our family, he was a loving and wonderful husband, father, and grandfather. Our hearts are broken." The Cleveland Browns also posting a message on Twitter saying, "Jim Brown forever, legend, leader, activist, visionary. It's impossible to describe the profound love and gratitude we feel for having the opportunity to be a small piece of Jim's incredible life and legacy. We mourn his passing, but celebrate the incredible light he brought to the world. Our hearts are with Jim's family, loved ones, and all those he impacted along the way." One more statement here we have from the NFL saying, "We are heartbroken by the passing of the legendary Jim Brown, one of the greatest players in NFL history, a true pioneer and activist. Jim Brown's legacy will live on forever." Brown was selected in the first round of the 1957 draft. He played 9 seasons for the Cleveland Browns and never missed a game in his entire career. He led the league in rushing 8 of those 9 seasons. He's the Browns' all-time rushing leader with 12,312 rushing yards and 106 touchdowns. We'll have much more on the life and legacy of Jim Brown tonight on Total Access at 7 p.m. Eastern.
There's no stopping Jim Brown on an effort like this. He goes over the top and into the end zone for his 5th touchdown of the day.
Have you ever seen an image of strength? Like this. A picture of power. Like this. A portrait of courage. Like this. Ask yourself these questions, because the answers tell you how superhuman this man really was. Ask yourself these questions, because his whole life, that's what Jim Brown was about.
We cannot make exception to these laws just because a person happens to be black or white.
Forcing the world to ask why things were the way they were, and how the rest of us could force change.
This is Jim Brown.
He had power. You ain't see nobody knock him down. Look at the film. You don't see nobody knock him
Most
back.
devastating ball carrier in the history of football.
He was born in the South, St. Simon's Island off the coast of Georgia in 1936, and raised in the North, a small town on Long Island, where his legend as an athlete began. Any sport Jim Brown played, he dominated. From football to basketball to track to lacrosse. Even though there's little video of him playing that last one, there were those who said there's never been a better lacrosse player who walked the earth. But football was the game that lifted him to stardom. First at Syracuse University, where he was an All-American, and then in Cleveland with the Browns. His NFL career began in 1957, and he played in the league for 9 years, absolutely dominating the sport and rewriting the record book, setting a new standard for how a running back could rule the game with a combination of speed, force, and will. But Jim Brown was so much more than arguably the greatest football player of all time. That was clear when he retired before he turned 30 to become a new kind of pioneer. A black action star in the movies. A Hollywood leading man who refused to be cornered into how the world cast him. And that was just the start of the legacy he built outside the football field. During the Civil Rights Movement, he was front and center in the fight to earn blacks economic opportunities. And in 1967, he organized the famed Cleveland Summit to support Muhammad Ali and his refusal to serve in Vietnam. Then, in the 1980s, he founded the AmeriCAN program to provide outreach to gang members and kids in juvenile detention facilities to give them education, hope, and a chance when no one else would.
We have changed many, many lives, and as I stand here right now, our people can carry out the work. They don't need me, and when I leave here, they can still carry out the work and they don't need me.
Even if he sometimes looked like Superman, Jim Brown wasn't a perfect man, but he was one of the most important figures ever to make a mark in the landscape of sports and society. He changed the game of football with his play. He redefined the limits of what a black man could be in America, through his strength, his power, and his courage. He never stopped looking for ways to make the country better for those of us who followed in his footsteps. Rest in power, Jim Brown. We'll keep doing the work in your name.